Hi guys, I'm a fellow passionate Payday 2 player, and I feel that as a player and as a customer, Overkill and Starbreeze Studios have not delivered a polished title and have not been completely honest in their advertising for the game. Payday 2 has been out of beta for over 2 weeks now, and other than a couple of the things on their change logs, most of the things that they've listed as fixed didn't really even affect me in the first place. And I realize that a lot of people were affected by these bugs, but I'm just stating my experiences, and in some cases later in the video, the experiences of the main three people I play the game with most often. I play with one person who lives quite near to me and two people that live in Germany. The first person has about a 30 millisecond ping to me, and the two friends in Germany have roughly a 190, 200 millisecond ping to me, which I understand is not completely ideal, but it also serves as a great test of the networking code for some of the games that we play. And my experience is that Payday 2 handles this quite terribly. So the first thing I'd like to discuss is quality assurance. What efforts have Overkill gone to in order to ensure that the game was playable, respectable, bug-free, etc.? And how does this compare to another typical game of the same caliber? Um, my main concern, to be quite frank, is what the hell is their quality assurance team even being paid for exactly? Because it really doesn't take an expert to notice that Steam achievements are crashing the game on launch day. How the hell did the game make it public before this was addressed? And there's just rampant desynchronization issues and crashes, all of this, this huge mess the first week of the game. And to cut them some slack, a lot of games are a mess the first week. But typically there's usually a day one or a day two patch that addresses most of the major problems, and then after a week or two goes by, everything's great, everything's fixed for the most part. Everybody's happy. This game, we're more than 2 weeks in, and practically the whole game is still a mess. I mean, yes, things have been fixed. Has everything been fixed? No. Have the most important things been fixed? Not all of them. Um, there was a quote here. There was a post on the Steam forums that was a direct response from Amir, one of the Overkill developers. I don't know if he's in charge of PR or if he's an actual developer or how that works. But one of the questions that he responded to was there content cut from the final game due to it releasing early? And his response was, first of all, the game wasn't released early. The game was released exactly when it was meant to. There are many out there that assume we've been pushed into releasing something that they think is unfinished, but that is not the case. We at Overkill think the game was finished when it was released. As soon as the game was released, we continued our plan of supporting the game with DLC, free content, and updates. And then question number 4 is also relevant. If content was cut, will it be finished and will it be free? The only content that we cut for release is the cloaker. We are still working on making sure that he works the way we intend him to do. However, the safe house customization has never been promised at release. When you go through the safe house, even Bane confirms that you'll be able to customize it down the line. So there's so many things that just pop out at me from these quotes. They're just chock full of lies and just misinformation, and let's just dive right into it. So he claims the game wasn't released early. I really think that it would really benefit them if they said that it was released early, even if it truly wasn't, because there's so many embarrassingly wrong things about this game that it would make a lot more sense if the game was released early and they were forced to just push it out. Why are the cloakers missing? Why wouldn't you delay release if you had to fix that? Why would you release the game without cloakers and then throw them in later? They're a major AI type. I mean, that totally changes how the game plays. Heists are going to be easier without cloakers, so how are you going to deal with the fact that stats, people have already gotten to rank 75 without cloakers? It's not fair to the people that buy the game after cloakers are added. It's really ridiculous. And then on top of that, there's all the other bugs that are still present in the game. The crashes that were present the first week of the game, the Steam disconnects, the heists that were appearing that weren't actually in the game, all this other crap. And I really find it hard to believe that the game was not rushed and that the release date was planned. And then the next thing I see in this is that the safe house customization has never been promised at release. It was promised. It was in one of the trailers. If I'll put it in the video if I can find it.
Additionally, it's there to kind of enjoy your wealth. So it's like a manifestation of your financial well-being. We show you all the money that you have in the vault in like a real way, which I think is really cool. And then you have, additionally, we allow you to kind of buy assets for the house.
When Bane talks to you in the safe house and says that you'll be able to customize it down the line, that's completely unspecific. When I got into the game, when I loaded the game, the way I understood that quote was, oh, after I rank up in the game and play it more, I'll be able to customize my safe house. It doesn't, why would you put it in the game audio that safe house customization is coming later? Why wouldn't you just announce it? Why leave it up to speculation and then come in later and scold us for seemingly making things up about the game? This didn't just come out of thin air. People have a reason for wondering why this isn't in the game, and it just further it makes it even more suspicious that the game was most likely released early. And which is fine. I just want them to own up to the fact that they screwed up instead of just constantly scolding the community for acting, like disgracing Overkill and disgracing the game and disgracing themselves and embarrassing themselves. It's just, if you release a game that has everything that was promised beforehand and works mostly correctly, it's playable, doesn't crash constantly, people are going to be happy. You're still going to have a couple people who, are just determined to hate the game, but for the most part you're going to have a lot of happy people. And that is not the case with the current Payday 2 community. There's a lot of angry people, there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of people that were actually hoping that more content was going to be added to the game for free in the first 2 weeks because they just couldn't believe that this was it, that this was all there was in the game. I think that a lot of people remember that there was a trailer where the one of the Overkill staff said that there would be 30 heists in the game, and this didn't include escape heists.
Talking about the changes from Payday to Payday 2,
yeah.
First of all, talk to me about size. We had 6 heists last time.
Yeah, so we should have probably not done as much as we did. So now we have 30.
Wow.
But it's not just that we have 30 heists, we actually, they're sort of a varying length, but they also can be segmented into days. So you can actually have multi-stages. So you can go from environment to environment.
Just go on a spree?
You can go on a spree, and you can actually like interrupt them if you screw up badly enough on a job. You can have a dynamic escape. So you wind up like, instead of being at the docks, you're at the park.
So 30 separate missions that you could or even if you counted it day by day, 30 separate days worth of missions, so that, let's say most of them were 3-day missions, or some of them could even be 5-day missions or whatever that we haven't seen yet. That's still, at least probably 10 heists that are missing from the game, and obviously they're just going to dump them in as DLC later on. So that's the reason why this is one of the major concerns of this video. The second thing I'd like to discuss is the networking in this game. What kind of performance are we getting during network play? What sort of issues do we typically run into? And what is most likely the cause? A lot of people in the Steam forums are having trouble joining network games. They've been having trouble joining games since the beta, and people are still having trouble joining. Basically what happens is you try to connect to a lobby, it tries for a couple seconds, and then it says failed to connect to game. Then all the heists, all the other games that were appearing in your crime.net server browser disappear. You have to wait another couple seconds, and then they'll all reappear, including the one that you can't join, and you have to try again. And so it takes minutes. Sometimes you could look for more than 10 minutes before you find a game that you can connect to. It's ridiculous. And this could be due to, the game requiring certain ports to be forwarded, but it seems like it's unusually difficult to get into a game. And, your frustration is compounded when you're trying to deal with the crime.net crap of everything disappearing and reappearing and being totally unorganized and hard to sort through. And Overkill did try to address the difficulty of using crime.net by adding some filters, but my opinion of crime.net is that the whole core of the idea is stupid, and they should either go back to the way Payday 1 was set up, or allow us to have a server browser, like a real server browser that shows connection info and allows people to start their own lobbies and stuff. But I'm not going to get into that because that's just an opinion. That's not a bug, and that's not a reason why I regret buying this game. So the main problem in the category of network that I experience and that my 3 friends experience, and that I really haven't seen that much of on the Steam forum, is client-side desynchronization. And I think the reason, before I get into it, I think the reason that I don't see a lot of this being discussed on the Steam forum is because people don't realize what's actually going on here. People are blaming other players in the game for not doing things correctly, or doing things in time, or going to a spot where the guard is not seeing guards, or getting detected in stupid ways, and they think that it's the fault of the player and that they're playing with idiots or something. And sometimes that's probably true, but that's probably not always the case here. What's going on is I think the game is not being able to keep the client-side code in sync with the server. And to kind of put this in layman's terms, client-side refers to the game processing that happens on your computer and that is sent to the server, and server-side is processing that's done on the server and sent to each of the clients. And ideally, the game is supposed to balance what's calculated on the client and what's calculated on the server, to not only keep things in sync, but to keep lag to a minimum, and to keep the server from processing too much. You know, it's kind of like distribution among the clients. So I think, you know, personally, I play with a friend who lives about 15 minutes away from me, and I know from playing other games with him that our ping is generally about 30 milliseconds or less, depending on the time of day and depending on the game. Yet when we play Payday 2, the AI are reviving him from across the map on his screen, while on my screen they're both standing right over him. And stuff like this makes it very clear that the game has split its AI logic between the client and the server in a way that's definitely not working. And if FPS games like Call of Duty and Battlefield can be playable with, you know, 150 millisecond or greater ping, there's really no reasonable excuse as to why Payday 2 of all games cannot keep track of AI locations or detection meters. So here's a list of the things that I've found directly related to this issue, and I'm going to show as much video evidence as I can of these things happening. Guards are appearing in different positions for different clients. So for instance, if the server sees a guard and shoots him, on the other person's screen the guard might be 10 feet in the other direction lying on the ground, and you could answer, the client could answer the pager from 10 feet away because he sees the guard on his screen. So he's basically answering a pager from 10 feet across the room. And then while I'm on the subject of guards, another problem that happens as a result of desynchronization is sometimes when you're trying to intimidate a guard, the server and the people with the best ping will see the guard surrender, put his hands up, and, you know, get on his knees, while the clients that are out of sync see the guard start shooting. And the guard will actually, I've had instances where the guard did damage to me by shooting me, while on the screen of the host he was watching the guard surrender. So on my screen the guard was already alerted and shooting, and on the server's screen he was on his knees surrendering and everything was still fine. That is a major difference in states, and to me that is a huge flaw in the way that this game works, and makes stealth missions practically impossible to do correctly. You know, this game comes down to luck 90% of the time, because it depends on how lucky you are with the AI logic, and how lucky you are with what's in sync and what's not. Another problem is the friendly AI are in different positions for different clients. So the same type of thing where a client is getting revived by an invisible AI. You know, the AI is 200 feet away on his screen, and he's being revived by Dallas. And on my screen, I see Dallas sitting right next to him, but on his screen, Dallas is on the other side of the map shooting. And it seems less obvious now than it was before, but I've still seen it happen a couple times. Sometimes the AI will die on the server and still be alive on the client, and then the game will end. Another one, teammates are falling through levels and going through walls due to this desynchronization. You know, they're dropping through the floor of the level and then reappearing back up on it. The detection monitor for stealth levels is very laggy for clients. For instance, your detection meter might not even be on the screen, and then all of a sudden it'll show up and already be half full, and then lag its way up to being full, whereas on the server it would start at 0 and then quickly rise up to half full, so you get a little bit more of a notice. And the other thing that happens related to this is that detection sometimes continues for clients even though they're hiding behind solid objects. So maybe your detection meter appears, it's halfway full, and you're like, oh shit. You move to the side, you're now behind a wall or a statue or something, and yet the detection monitor just keeps going up like you haven't moved at all, and you get detected, and then that throws the game for everybody, and then you start getting yelled at because people think you're a moron, when in actuality it's the game screwing you over. The third thing I'd like to address is public relations, and this would be how Overkill has handled the community so far, and how are they responding to the community's concerns, and how much of an effort are they giving to respond directly and personally. And you know, I don't really want to make this too much of a core point in the video, because you know, I don't want to sound like the kind of person that needs, you know, the developer to bend down at their knees and you know, do my bidding. That's ridiculous. But I think there's a certain level of professionalism that's involved in public relations, and I feel that Overkill is not being very professional about this, and they've dropped the ball more than a few times already. And I can't say I was really very involved in the release of Payday 1, so I can't really say whether they've done a better or worse job than before. All I can speak for is what I've seen with Payday 2, because I bought the Career Criminal Edition and I've been with them since day one of the beta. My main question is, why can't, or why isn't Overkill acknowledging some of the problems that are repeatedly being posted on the discussion boards? Instead of responding to our issues or even posting one large response as a sticky thread that everyone would see, they just seem to ignore us and chime in random topics at random times at their own leisure. And more than a few times they've been publicly fed up with the community, saying that we are, quote, toxic and repetitive. So I really think that they need to take a step back and consider why the community is being repetitive and why it seems like the community would be toxic, because my answers to those questions would be that the community is being repetitive because even after 6 or I think 7 now updates to the game, there's still things that have been wrong since day one. And people are repeating themselves because they really want to see this stuff fixed, and it just keeps getting ignored over and over and over. And Overkill is wondering, why are you guys repeating yourselves? Because you still haven't fixed the problems. That's why. It's very clear cut. It should be very clear to them, and I don't know why it isn't. And then the reason the community seems toxic is probably because there's a lot of animosity building up over what I just said. And there's a lot of people that are tired of repeating themselves. There's a lot of people that are really fed up with the level of support they've been given, and they're really starting to regret their purchase. And the point where a lot of people start regretting the purchase of your game is the point where you should really slam on the brakes before you drive straight off the cliff, because you are really close at that point to losing a lot of people. And when that happens, everybody's going to be on the same bandwagon, and start demanding refunds for the game, start trashing the developer, not buying future titles because of their experience with Payday 2. And I really don't want to see that happen, and I really don't think Overkill would want to see that happen. So I think they really need to seriously take a step back and think about all of this again. And another thing I'd like to point out, just kind of offhand, is it really annoys me that their change logs are so vague. You know, when they fix something in a level, they mention, like, I think in update 6 one of the changes was fixed alleyway door in nightclub. That really doesn't tell me what the hell you fixed. What was wrong with the alleyway door in nightclub? What happened? What situation has been fixed? You know, and then they said fixed Steam disconnects. What Steam disconnects? I've never had any Steam disconnects. I'm sure other people have, but I would like to be aware of it so that I know if it affects me in any way. You know, so I just like them to put a little more effort into their changelogs, because I would assume that as a professional developer studio, they have very detailed changelogs most likely in a ticket system, where they can keep track of everything that's wrong with the game, I would hope. And I don't see why they feel like they need to dumb down their changelog to us and talk to us like we're a bunch of children. You know, that kind of offends me. I'm not gonna, you know, make a big deal about it, but like I said, it kind of offends me that they treat us like that. I would appreciate more detail and more specificity. So that's really all I have to say about public relations. So the fourth and final thing I'd like to discuss is the updates that they've released to Payday 2. And you'll notice my notes are in the upper corner. It's because I'm talking and showing you things at the same time, and I don't want to forget anything. So the first thing I want to discuss is how long it's taken them to release key fixes. Why did it take them a week to address the first batch of semi-major issues? So if you'll notice in front of me, I have the Payday 2 master changelog here. And you can tell by the title that Update 7 is the latest update as of recording this video. So let's look at Update 1. This was released on day 1, and it fixed a crash that people would experience when they reached the card screen at the end of the Payday heist. It fixed an achievement crash that members would experience when gaining certain achievements. It fixed several level assets, which that's fine. You know, I could see how stuff like that could slip through the cracks. And they removed a couple more things that are not important. But the two things at the top are very important. These two crashes that managed to make it into the day 1 release. How could you possibly, I think I already touched on this earlier in the video, how could you possibly have missed crashes where that occur every time you earn an achievement and every time you earn a card? That just completely ruins the experience. So a lot of people, I think they released this within 12 hours of the game, so not everybody even experienced this, but a lot of people did, and that probably affected a lot of people's opinions. So that was their day 1 patch, was fixing 2 crashes, which, you know, cool. Wasn't totally a waste of time. Then Update 2 was a week later. It took them a week to do this stuff, and it looks like a lot, but honestly, it really isn't. They fixed a glitch where the Career Criminal Edition discount was applying to everyone, but they didn't compensate us at all for that. I talked about that in my previous video. I'm not going to go into that again, but that pissed off a lot of people. They fixed some invite system issues, fixed some controller support issues, fixed some menu issues, blah, 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 fixed some skill tree issues, fixed a bunch of level specific issues. Great. It took them a week to do it, but great. Then, the next day, we got another small patch that fixed a bug so that players could now use the invite friends feature in game again. Really, you know, how would you not notice that you broke the invitation system in Update 2? Why did no one test Update 2 before they released it? Did they just throw it together and throw it out there and then realize the next day, oh shit, we broke the invite system? this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about when I wonder how committed these people really are to making sure they release a quality game, and how useless I believe their quality assurance team is. And then 2 days after that, we got an update 4, which fixed 3 level specific issues that I hadn't even encountered. But people do encounter that, so it's not like I'm discrediting the update or anything. Don't take it like that. A day later, they released update 5, which in my opinion is the most significant update that they've made to the game at all. Fixed several imbalances in the skill tree. Fixed some sound issues and some crime.net issues and some AI issues and some more level specific issues. But the main thing that really bugged me about this update is 2 things. The first thing is this bullet point right here. Bags. You can no longer grab them through walls, fences, and such. The easy days are gone. If you've played Payday 1, you would know that it's been since Payday 1 that you could grab bags through walls, and you could also revive people through walls. And to the average player, that might seem like a weird thing. Might seem like a bug. Why am I able to do things through walls? What's the point of having walls if I can just grab bags straight through them? But here's the key point. They did not fix it in Payday 1. They fixed plenty of other things, but they did not fix that. I don't think they even acknowledged it. So what else are we to do but to assume it's a feature and get used to it and enjoy it and embrace it as a part of the game that makes our lives just a little bit easier, makes the game a little bit more enjoyable. Then Payday 2 comes out. In the beta, we can still grab bags through walls, so this is very familiar to the Payday veteran players. And they're like, great, we can still grab bags through walls. This is familiar to me. This is the playstyle I'm used to. Good. 4 updates roll by, 2 weeks rolls by, still not fixed. I wouldn't assume it was going to be fixed. Then randomly in update 5, they decide to throw that whammy in there. You can no longer grab bags through walls. You can no longer revive people through walls. And then they throw in these little catchphrases at the end. The easy days are gone. Man up. Did they just decide out of the blue that the game was too easy? Why would you throw this stuff in there? Why would you ruin the thing that everyone's used to and has assumed is a feature for over a year now? I don't know when exactly Payday 1 came out off the top of my head, but I would imagine it's been quite a while, definitely over a year. So that was really one of my major gripes lately. It was kind of like another nail in the coffin for me. And then the other thing they did in this update is they introduced escapes on single day heists. And I can understand escapes on multi-day heists. I also went over this in my previous video. I'm not going to complain. It's a transition from one day to another. It makes sense. It's plausible. But on day 1 heists, the point of doing the day 1 heist is to just get in and get out. You want a quick game. You don't want to commit to 15 minutes of playing the game. And putting the escape missions in has just ruined that. And I think common speculation is that it was kind of like an attempt to discourage farming, XP farming, and cash farming because the levels were too quick and too easy. But as I've written in my notes here, farming in general is a very interesting topic, and I think that farming is even the fact that farming is even a problem in this game should tell you that the devs have failed to design a ranking system that rewards people for playing the game correctly. Why should I waste 2 hours attempting to do framing frames stealthily on overkill difficulty when I could just run through Ukrainian Job, Nightclub, and 4 stores a couple times in the same 2 hours and earn more XP, more cash, and more cards? It doesn't make sense. Their whole system is flawed, and they're trying to make up for it in the wrong ways. And they need to just rethink the whole card system, reward system, and make it more fair to the players instead of taking away features in an attempt and adding more difficult, more I can't think of the right word for it, but more annoyances in the heist to try and make up for it. That's the wrong way to try and make up for it. So, you know, that's my fourth and final point, and it's not necessarily my strongest point, but you know, there's 2 more updates after this. Update 6 fixed another Steam disconnect crash and some ECM bugs, and then Update 7 fixed some more things. They did tone down the escape rate on several heists. I haven't played Update 7, so I don't know what sort of improvements they've made. Maybe my last point is no longer valid anymore, but you know, it's just the main point I'm trying to make here is, from all the things I've listed in this video, none of it is addressed in all of these updates. They're making all this effort, and none of it is in the right place. Well, I shouldn't say none of it, but it's not enough. That is how I'm going to put it. It's not enough effort. And rather than wasting their time coding things like, let's see, where is it? Your loot bags now show up in a growing pile in your escape car or chopper. Who gives a fuck if the bags pile up in the escape car? I would prefer that you just make sure that the doors are always open to the escape car. I don't care if the bags pile in it. They're wasting their time on stuff like this and not addressing the core issues of the game. And that's the point I'm trying to drive home here, and I hope that's what you leave this video with, if not anything else.